Hola y bienvenidos a este video sobre el futuro simple en español. Hello and welcome to this video lesson where we're going to explore the simple future tense in Spanish. Los retos de esta clase son entender qué es el futuro y cuándo usarlo, poder conjugar los verbos regulares en el futuro y estar consciente de algunos verbos irregulares. So the goals of this lesson, the first one is to understand what the future tense is and when to use it. The second one is to be able to conjugate regular verbs in the future, and finally to be aware of some key irregular verbs. Para empezar, vamos a mirar qué es el futuro. So the future tense is used in a similar way to how we use it in English. We use it to talk about what someone will do or something that will happen. So will is our key word here. And we call it the future tense a lot of the time, but it's specifically the simple future tense. And that's to differentiate it from the near future tense, which is when we talk about what is going to happen or what we're going to do. And that's the one where we use ir plus an infinitive, like voy a hacer, I'm going to do. The simple future expresses that idea that I will do something. So just take a moment and have a think. Can you think of some examples in English where we use the word will to talk about the future? So give this video a pause, have a few moments to think to yourself, and when you're ready, push play. Okay, so I'm hoping you've had a chance to think of some examples in English. Two things have popped into my head. First one, tomorrow I will read a book. And the second one, tomorrow it will be sunny. So in my first example, I'm talking about what I will do. And in the second example, I'm talking about something that will happen. So not necessarily something that someone's doing, but something that will happen. ¿Y cuándo se usa el futuro? So when do we use the future tense? As I've already mentioned, will is our key word here. So every time you want to express the idea that someone will do something or that something will happen, you need to use this tense. You need to use the simple future tense. Ahora te voy a dar algunos ejemplos. So I'm going to give you some examples now. El primero, iré a Londres. I will go to London. El segundo, visitaré a mi abuela. I will visit my grandmother. Y el tercero, estudiaré español en la universidad. I will study Spanish at university. So notice here, in the English, we've got I will, then the verb, so I will go. In Spanish, it's just one word. And the pronoun, so the word for I, we don't actually need to include that in Spanish most of the time. You could say, yo iré, but you don't have to. And that idea that you will do something, the will, in English we use will, then the infinitive to express the future tense. In Spanish, the verb ending sort of expresses that idea. So the idea that you will do something, it's built into the verb. So the will go, it's just one word. The will visit, it's just one word. And the same with will study. Entonces ya hemos hecho el primer objetivo de esta clase, así que le vamos a dar tic. Y el próximo paso que vamos a tomar es poder conjugar los verbos regulares en el futuro. ¿Y cómo se conjuga el futuro? So how is the future tense conjugated? How is it formed? Well, unlike in other tenses where we have to remove something from the end of the verb, in the future tense, the same as in the conditional tense, we use our infinitive verb, so the whole infinitive, as our verb stem. So we don't take anything off of the end. So if we look at the verb bailar, to dance, we've got the whole verb there, so we don't need to take that AR off. Then we add our future tense ending. So this is in the yo form, the I form, so it goes to bailaré. And as I've mentioned about the conditional, we also use the infinitive, so they're really similar tenses. If you haven't done the conditional yet, don't worry, because you can do the future and the conditional in either one first, really, in any order. It doesn't make much difference. So when you feel comfortable with the future tense, head over to my channel and watch the videos I've put there about the conditional tense. And what you learn in this one, it's really going to help you understand that one as well. So in a moment we're going to look at what the future tense endings are. So here we've got a grid with all the different persons. So the first person singular, the je form, the I form, the second person singular, tú or you, the third person singular, so él, he, ella, she, and usted, which is the formal you, nosotros or nosotras, which means we, so that's our first person plural. Our second person plural, vosotros or vosotras, which is you plural. And finally, our third person plural, ellos, ellas, so they, or ustedes. So that's our formal you plural form. So the endings are as follows. E, as, a, hemos, es, an. E, as, a, hemos, es, an. So if we go back to the verb bailar, we've already got bailaré, and that's I will dance. So you will dance would be bailarás. He, she, or you formal would be bailará. Then we will dance would be bailaremos. You plural will dance, bailaréis. And they will dance, bailarán. So let's just focus on these endings quickly. Notice that all of them, except for the nosotros form, the hemos ending, all of the rest have an accent. So that means, let's go back to bailar. So with that, it's not bailare, it's bailaré. So that accent tells us we need to accentuate that last syllable, in this case that last vowel sound, bailaré. And with hemos, the only one that doesn't have it, we need to accentuate the E rather than the O. So instead of bailaremos, is bailaremos. Bailaremos. Okay, so let's focus back in on those endings again. In Spanish, quite often, the sets of endings we get have a nice pattern we can follow, like they're sometimes all A's or they're all E's. This one, you'll notice it's a bit of a mixture of A's and E's, so it can be a little bit hard to remember it at first. So I'm going to show you a little way, a little trick to visualize it now. So looking over here in the bottom left, we've got the first, second, and third persons, and a column for the singular, and a column for the plural. So our endings go into this as follows. E, as, a, that's our first person, second person, and third person singular. Hemos, es, an. So our first person, second person, and third person plural. So you'll notice now that this makes it a little bit easier to categorize the E's and the A's. So you can think of this as an axe shape, if you like, and this one as a shoe or a boot. And this will just allow you to visualize which ones are A's and which ones are E's. So you might find that helps you learn. Maybe not for everyone, because we all have different ways of learning and remembering things, but this is definitely something that, that I find quite helps me to think about the way these are laid out. So if you get a chance now, just read through those yourself. If you can write them down, if you've got a book that you take notes in, fantastic. If you'd like to pause the video and just repeat these, sort of chant them to yourself. E, as, a, hemos, es, an. And a quick word about the second person plural, the ace one. It helps me to think about the pronunciation of that as the ace of spades in a deck of cards, ace. Okay, so when you're ready, just push play again. Okay, so I'm hoping you've had a chance to do that. Let's move on. Ahora vamos a seguir mirando cómo se conjuga el futuro. So we're going to keep looking at how we conjugate the future tense. So those endings that you've just learned, those 6 endings, they're the same for all verbs, which makes this nice and easy. Because, you know, in some tenses, like in the present tense, you've got to learn 3 sets of endings. In the preterite tense, the past tense, you've got to learn 2 sets of endings. In the future and the conditional tense, there's just 1 set of endings that we use for all of the verbs in the entire Spanish language. So that's really nice and easy. So here we've got the different persons again, and now we've got an AR verb, ER verb, and an IR verb. So we've got jugar, which means to play, comer, which is to eat, and escribir, which is to write. So have a little go, if you can, at thinking about how these verbs will be conjugated in each of the different people. So think back to the endings we've just seen, and give it a pause, give the video a pause and have a go at conjugating those if you can. If you're not sure, just stick with me and we'll go through them now. Okay, so jugar, yo jugaré, tú jugarás, él jugará, nosotros jugaremos, vosotras jugaréis, y ustedes jugarán. And that's exactly the same with comer, comeré, comerás, comerá, comeremos, comeréis, comerán. So I will eat, you will eat, he, she, or you formal will eat, and so on. Now with escribir, to write, escribiré, escribirás, escribirá, escribiremos, escribiréis, escribirán. So you do end up with some quite long words with this one, like escribiremos. Just break it down syllable by syllable and pronounce it as it's written. Escribiremos, escribiremos, comeremos, jugaremos. Ahora vamos a practicar lo que hemos aprendido. So now we're going to practice what we've learned. So let's just quickly go through the steps again. First of all, we keep the verb in its infinitive form. So we don't take the er, ar, ir ending off. We leave that on there. Then we simply add one of those 6 endings that we've just gone through. And they're the same for all of the verbs. So I've got them here for you again, so you've got a bit of support to do this next activity. If you think you know them, just try not to look at them or cover that part of your screen if you can. So what I'd like you to do now in a moment is to pause the video, have a look at each of these verbs. I've written there who's doing the verb, or who will do the verb, and I just want you to add the right ending. So let's just do the first one together. So yo and bailar, so it's the same example we used at the very start of this lesson. Yo bailaré, so I will dance. Then we've got beber, which is to drink, ir, which is to go, visitar, which is to visit, hablar, which is to speak, and comprar, which is to buy. So just pause the video now and see if you can give those a go. Okay, so I'm hoping you've done that. Now we're going to go through them. So the second one, tú beberás, so you will drink. Ella irá, she will go. Nosotros visitaremos, we will visit. Vosotras hablaréis, so you plural in the feminine will speak. Y por último, last of all, ellos comprarán. Ahora vamos a practicar con algunas frases. So now we're going to practice with some sentences. So I've got a little hint here for you again. It's the infinitive plus the future ending. And we've got 5 different sentences here where we're going to complete the verb. And here we've got our little grid to help us remember which ending we need to use. So our first one, we'll do it together again. Él, so he, and then we've got the verb jugar, to play. So he will play football on Friday. Él jugará al fútbol el viernes. Okay, so then we've got tocar, which is to play an instrument, ver, which is to see or to watch, ir, which is to go, and comer, which is to eat. So again, just give the video a pause and try and complete these sentences. If you can write it down, fantastic. If not, just try and go through them in your head and think about which ending you're using with each one. Okay, so I'm hoping you've had a chance to do that, and it would also be really good if you can, when you do these sorts of activities, just to read through them yourself, and if you can record yourself saying them and then listen to my pronunciation, then you can kind of check your own pronunciation as well. It's a really good tip when you're learning languages. Okay, so número 1 hemos hecho, so we've done number 1. Él jugará al fútbol el viernes. Número 2. Tú tocarás la guitarra en el concierto el jueves. So you will play the guitar in the concert on Thursday. Número 3. Nosotras veremos la película la próxima semana. So we, a group of girls or women, we will watch the film next week. La próxima semana. Número 4. Ellos irán al partido en la noche. they will go to the match in the nighttime or in the evening. So el partido is like el partido de fútbol, a football match. So it's a sports match. Número 5. Yo comeré en el restaurante mañana. So I will eat in the restaurant tomorrow. So remember, if we say por la mañana, it means in the morning. But if we just say mañana, it means tomorrow. Ahora vamos a practicar un poquito más. So we're going to practice a bit more now, and I'm going to make it slightly harder. So we've got 5 sentences here again that need completing. And here we've got a reminder to use the infinitive verb plus its future ending. Now, I don't want to make this too hard for you, so we're only going to use the I form. So for each of these sentences, you've got the verb at the end of the sentence. So we've got ir, to go, tomar, to take or to have a drink, comer, to eat, volver, to return or to go back, and ver, to see or to watch. So I want you to take those and add the first person singular future ending, so that's the one we use in the yo form, in the I form, so that it's I will go, I will have a drink, I will eat, I will go back, and I will watch. Okay, if you've forgotten the right ending, just go back and have a little look, and then try and do this without looking at that so that you're practicing. And as I said before, if you're in a situation where you can read these out loud to yourself, that's really recommendable as well. Okay, so I'm hoping you've had a chance to do those. Let's go through them. Número 1. El sábado por la mañana iré a la biblioteca. So on Saturday in the morning, I will go to the library. And notice that in English we say on Saturday, in Spanish you say el sábado, the Saturday. So that's just something that's a bit different in Spanish. El sábado. Número 2. Después, tomaré un café en una cafetería. So afterwards, or after, I will have a coffee in a coffee shop or in a cafe. So tomaré, as I said, tomar, it can mean to take, but you also use it to talk about having a drink. Tomar un café, to have a coffee. Tomaré un café, I will have a coffee. Número 3. Luego comeré en un restaurante. So later or after, I will eat in a restaurant. Número 4. Por la tarde, volveré a la casa. So in the afternoon, I will go back home, or I will return home. Or you could say, I will go back to the house. So you can say a la casa, or volveré a casa. I will go home, I will go back to the house. So we use casa as house, but also our word for home. Y por último, last of all, número 5, y veré una película. So, and I will watch a film. Entonces ya hemos hecho el segundo objetivo de esta clase, que fue poder conjugar los verbos regulares en el futuro. Le damos un tic. Y el próximo paso es estar consciente de algunos verbos irregulares. Ahora vamos a mirar los verbos irregulares. So now we're going to look at the irregular verbs. I have really good news for you. There are only 12 irregular verbs in the future tense. Even better news, they're the exact same verbs that are irregular in the conditional, and they are irregular in exactly the same way. So if you know the irregular verbs in the conditional, you actually know these, and if you don't, then when you do learn these, you'll know them for the conditional as well. And what makes them irregular is that they have a different stem that we use instead of the infinitive. But to be honest, they're not wildly different, they're just kind of adapted versions of the infinitive, so they're not that hard to learn. And the endings that we use with them are completely regular. So those 6 endings that we just learned, you can use them for every single verb in the entire Spanish language, so you don't have to worry about any irregular endings whatsoever. So 12 is quite a big number, so we're going to start off just with 3. Our first verb is the verb hacer, which is to do or to make. We take the C and the E out of the infinitive, and we're left with our irregular stem, which is ar. So when we add our future tense ending, for example, the yo ending, it goes to haré. I will do or I will make. With the verb poder, to be able to, it just loses an E, so it goes to podr. Podré, I will be able to. Tener loses an E, and we replace it with a D, so it goes to tendre. So it goes to tendré. Now there are three sort of categories of irregular verbs in the future and conditional. On my channel there's a video, it's a conditional video, but it looks specifically at those three types of irregularity. So you can head over and check that one out at a later date if you want. And here you'll see that we've actually got one of each type. So we've got hacer, which is really quite irregular because it loses a C and an E, one that just loses an E, and one where the last vowel gets replaced with a D. So in a moment I'll show you the other irregulars and you'll see that they're quite common patterns. Ahora vamos a mirar los otros verbos irregulares. So we're now going to take a look at the 9 remaining irregular verbs. So here they are. Let's go through them one by one. First up we've got our verb decir or decir, which is quite irregular, the same as hacer or hacer. And this is our verb to say, and its irregular stem is dir. So I will say is diré. Next up's our verb haber, which is our verb to have when used as an auxiliary verb. So it's not the same as tener, which is to have as in to possess something. Haber is more like when you say I have done something. For example, he comido, I have eaten. This one goes to habre, so it just loses the E. So habré is I will have. Then you use a past participle, like comido. So if you say habré comido, it means I will have eaten. And that's a completely different tense then. That's what we call the future perfect tense. Our next verb is poner, which is the verb to put. That last vowel, so the E, gets replaced with a D, and it goes to pondré. Querer, our verb to want and also to love, loses the E, and it goes to querré. Notice that when we remove the E, because the two R's are next to each other, we've got to create that rolling R sound. Querré. Our next verb is saber, the verb to know. We lose the E out of that one, and it goes to sabré. I will know. Salir, the last vowel changes to a D, so it goes to saldré. Salir is to go out, so if I say mañana saldré con mis amigos, it would mean tomorrow I will go out with my friends. Venir, the last vowel changes to a D, it goes to vendré. Venir is to come, so I will come. Valer is the verb to be worth, so that one would go to valdré because the E changes to a D. Our last vowel changes to a D. And to be honest, you don't really come across this verb in the first person because we don't tend to say I am worth or I will be worth. You're more likely to hear vale, as it obviously means okay, but it also means it is worth. You often hear people say vale la pena. That means it's worth it. So if you say valdrá la pena with our third person singular future tense ending, a accent, valdrá la pena means it will be worth it. And then finally we've got the verb caber, which means to fit. We lose the E, it goes to cabre, so cabré is I will fit. And again, you're more likely to hear that in the third person, cabrá, it will fit. Ok, entonces hemos llegado al final de la clase. We've arrived to the end of the lesson. So muchísimas gracias por ver. Thank you so much for watching. Some next steps you might want to take on your journey in Spanish is to practice conjugating verbs in the future tense. So we've looked at 12 irregulars and we've looked at some regular verbs here. I'd recommend you go back through the video, maybe write some different sentences down using them, but also take some other verbs that I haven't talked about in this video and practice making them future tense. And you could also learn more about the irregular verbs in the future. So as I mentioned before, if you head over to my channel, you'll find a video about the irregulars, the 3 types of irregulars in the conditional. They're the exact same ones in the future, just the endings that we put on them are different. So you could watch that one. And if you feel like you feel confident with the future tense and you haven't seen the conditional yet, I'd recommend you start watching the videos on the conditional because you'll see that both tenses work in a really, really similar way. So it's a good idea to do them together. You just need to make sure you don't muddle up those different endings. Ok, otra vez, muchísimas gracias por ver y espero que te vaya muy bien con el español.